there, and welcome back. I'm Doug, and this is yet another pen-related video. You know, I try to space these things out so that, maybe I would have a pen video every week or so, but even though I space out my purchases, one this week, one next week, maybe wait a week, and then wait for the well to fill up, and purchase another pen. But somehow the post office, I'm suspecting in Canada, tends to see them coming and say, oh, here's another package for that idiot in Calgary who's so addicted to fountain pens. So let's hold them all and deliver them all on the same day. Yeah, that would be terrific. Yeah, it's a vast conspiracy, I know. So yesterday, a couple of days ago, I received my PenBBS 308, Amber is a Cat. And I did a first look and unboxing. I was surprised at getting that pen because I had ordered it, 8-9 days after I had ordered this one. And today this one has arrived. And this is the bigger PenBBS package, which I expected because it is the 456. This is my first vacuum filling pen. So I'm excited to learn the ins and outs of that. But first, let's open this package and see what kind of funky cat sticker I've received from China today. I got 2 Give Me 5s to keep with my collection of Give Me 5s. This is now 3. Yay. And we have a box. Plain white cardboard with the markings 456-0005, which I assume is the color code for clear glass. This will be that typical PenBBS magnetic flip case. Open up the sleeve, and presto. PenBBS, embossed on cardboard, little magnetic flip. And here we have the pen, dressed nicely in its pen condom. First looks. It's a little heavier than I expected, but that's good. It feels substantial. And there's the vac-filler mechanism. So clear finial, silver clip, and this is the sword clip that is standard on the 456. I'm not sure what other PenBBS pens it's standard on, but it's different than the what would you call that? It looks like a man's tie clip that's on the 308. Stiff but workable. Center cap band says PenBBS. And Shanghai. I don't see any markings that designated it as 456. And the end cap. Screw mechanism for operating the piston. Let's open it up. 1.5. There seems to be a good pen sleeve in there to seal off the nib. And here's the section and nib. See how close we can get. That's nice. It's a two-tone gold and chrome, and it is designated a fine. It says PenBBS since 2005, and F for fine, and then it says China. And then on the back of the nib, there's some kind of Chinese characters there. Where is that? Maybe I'll be able to tell when I see the video up close. Metal threads, concave section. Oh, I like that. Very nicely balanced. Yeah, I like that section a lot. It's almost the perfect size and shape and thickness section for me. Metal threads on plastic, not plastic, sorry, this is acrylic. Clear glass, they call it, but it's acrylic. Has no odor whatsoever. And open up the section. Of course, it's a little draggy because it's got a silicone seal on it, as you'd expect in a vacuum filler. And there's the section with the silicone O-ring. And there's the plastic feed. Looks like a typical PenBBS plastic feed. This is number 6 nib. I expect I'd be able to slide that out of there. I'm going to see how well this fine nib writes before I even think of replacing it. Screw that back together again. And unscrew the cap. When you unscrew the cap, it disengages the piston from the secondary ink chamber, allowing the feed to fill with ink when you're writing. Of course, you release it all the way, and you pull the piston down, and you create a vacuum. And when it pops into this flared section right in here, that vacuum you created, negative pressure, sucks ink from the feed up into the barrel, and then you can close that down. As I understand it, you might take a couple of those plunges into the ink to do that, but we're going to give that a try. It'll be my first time. Ooh, first time live on television. Okay, so I'm going to clean this pen up and do some weights and measures, and then we'll do some size comparisons. And I'm hesitant to try my first vacuum filler on camera, but what the hell, might as well embarrass yourself in front of the world, right? I'm sure people will tell me I'm doing it wrong. Anywho, PenBBS 456. Back after this commercial break. Okay, and I'm back, and I have, as you can see, disassembled the pen. I couldn't help myself. So I had to know if I was going to clean it out, whether I'd be able to get it back together again or not. So the best way to find out is to take it apart and put it back together again. When I was a kid, my dad had an old lawnmower that he wasn't using anymore, and so I asked if I could have it, and I took it all apart to learn how an engine, internal combustion engine, worked, and then thought I would be able to, at 10 years old, put it all back together again. I was sadly mistaken. I never got that thing back together again, but I did learn how it came apart and how everything worked. So what I did was I took the section out of the barrel, and then I unscrewed the nib assembly from the section. And you can see in this nib assembly, I haven't tried to take the nib out of here because I believe this is one piece. I could be mistaken in that, but this is one piece item that you can probably get replacements for that would go right into this feed. I'll have to do some research on that. But there are two silicone rings on this nib assembly. One is right there, and one is right there. I'm finding this much superior to the Moonman M2 section, which has a little rubber O-ring there, or silicone O-ring, that is always falling off. No matter what I do, I can't keep it from falling off. And it's so small, you can put it back together again without it, especially since they're almost invisible. But that's hung on there quite well. So that's good. You just screw it back into the section. Just like this. Now, I'm not going to put any silicone grease on that. Don't want to interfere with the flow of the ink through the section and through the feed. So maybe just a little bit on those threads. Now, the end of the section, this is familiar, the little O-ring right there. I'm going to put a bunch of silicone grease on that and those threads so that it seals the ink chamber off from the section. That goes right in there. Then at this end, this is where the piston comes out, and the piston has the rubber stopper right at the front that pushes up against the end of the section. Isn't your engineering wonderful? Pushes up against the end of the section, like that, to stop the flow of ink coming into the section from the ink reservoir. That's when you tighten down the end cap. When you release the end cap, just a little bit, it backs that off just a touch to allow the ink to flow through. In the meantime, this part of the section, or this part of the piston, glides along the inside of the barrel and creates the vacuum inside the barrel that sucks up the ink. There are two silicone O-rings right there, and then there's this screw thread section. It's hard to see, but there's a flatted part right there. On the TWSBI, I don't own TWSBIs, but I know that they have, they come with a little wrench that you can undo. This does not come with a little wrench, but any good tool like this will be able to do the job for you. A little crescent wrench and just a couple of tugs on it, and it unscrews very nicely. The rod assembly here should get a little bit of silicone grease and probably just a little bit on these rubber stoppers. So that I'm going to grease that up. It looks like this comes apart as well, but I don't need to take that apart. I don't see any need, but there's a little threaded, or not threaded, slot on that little bolt right there. I'm sure that if you got a tool in there, you could release that little nut to take this end cap off. But I would resist doing that. I don't see any reason for doing it. So that's how the whole thing goes together. This assembly fits in here, just like that. And then the piston goes down, closes off. The section goes into the barrel, and the nib assembly into the section. And a loosely put together 456. Now, I'm going to silicone grease it up and see whether I can actually get it back together again and write it, or whether I've wrecked it. We'll see. And now I'm back. So I've done some silicone greasing. I cleaned the whole pen out with a little soap and water and dried it up, and then added some silicone grease to the end of the section, the piston rod, a little bit on the piston itself, piston rubber, and put the whole thing back together again. It looks like it's in the same place it was, but let's find out whether it works. So I'm going to fill it up with my favorite blue ink, Iroshizuku Kon-Peki, and we'll see what we shall see. First time with a vac-filler. So, unscrew the blind cap. You pull the piston back, put the section into the ink, right up to the section, and push down slowly. Bubbles happening inside the ink, which is good. And it fills. Now, let's see if I can do it a second time. Do I leave it in the ink when I pull up? Push down. And it fills again. Clean off the section. And the nib. And close the blind cap. Sorry, I hit my camera a couple times. Make sure all the ink's off of there. There we go. Prevent accidents. Close up the bottle. Oh, that looks very pretty. And of course it came up through the feed, so the feed is saturated. One of the things I can observe right away is that when you uncap this, it's only a problem because it's clear, but the pen never lines up with the clip. Yeah, there's multiple starting points, and so to find it where it lines up is almost impossible. If I start it with the pen upside down and then close it, well, it's close. Anyway, that's just me being obsessive and compulsive. I'm going to do some comparisons in terms of sizes, and we'll get out some other pens and see what it looks like next to those. Okay, here we are with the 456 next to a few different pens here. There's the 456. This is a Moonman M600S. This is the PenBBS 308 Amber is a Cat. And this is the Visconti Van Gogh Starry Night. Now, let's look at some weights and measures. Okay, and on to a writing sample. Okay, we're back with a writing sample. Now, I tested this out first, and I've got to say that my heart sort of jumped a bit, thinking, oh dear, I've got a dud. Because, let's see if I can get this up here. This is a fine point. I expected it to write just like my Amber is a Cat, because they're both from PenBBS. and they're both fine points. This one, as I reviewed just the other day, writes like a dream. I'm just loving this. Smooth, 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 smooth. Right out of the box. This one, now, I didn't touch the nib. It wrote like a nail. It skipped. I figured, okay, well, I'm going to open up the flow. So I opened this up, allowed more ink to flow. Still skipped and was thin and was scratchy. So I grabbed my handy dandy spark plug gapping tool, put a 0.003 in between the tines and spread it out a bit. Well, that helped with the flow of ink, and I got some good flow, but boy, the pen was still very, very disappointing on the paper. So I micromeshed it for about, half a minute, 45 seconds. Circles, figure eights, back and forth, especially in the direction of the scratch, which was right to left when I was going horizontally like this, or on the angle that way. And after about 45 seconds of micromesh, it seemed to write okay. So I'm feeling a lot better about this pen than I was. I was thinking I was going to have to change out the nib. It's still feeling a lot, not a lot, but a little bit finer than my Amber as a Cat or my 308 Cedar. This is the PenBBS. This is the 456 clear, and it is a fine point. And this is a fine point. It is not like the Amber as a Cat or the Cedar 308, more like a fine medium. The ink here is Iroshizuku. I never remember how to spell that. Kon-Peki. Lots of feedback, especially in that direction. I might have to micromesh it a little bit more. Well, yeah, it's going to take a little bit more work. If I can spread the tines a little bit more, I'll get a little bit more flow. Let's see what it's looking like. Wow, that's dry. Yeah. So I'm going to try to wetten this up a little bit and do some more micro mesh on it, and see in fact whether I can bring it back to something that I want to write with, because you're going to want to write with this pen a lot with that much ink in it. It looks like about 3 milliliters of ink in this pen, just guessing. But anyway, we've come to the end of this video, and as always, thank you for watching. And that's all she wrote. Look at that. Yeah.